So we're going to start with Alan. Alan Akrivos, who is a member of Socialist Alternative, and I'll call on the other speakers after Alan.
Well, thank you, Marcia. I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to address the meeting today. I think actually our original speaker was intended to be, who was an assistant political director of the campaign in Minneapolis, Jesse Lessinger. Unfortunately, he's down with the flu, and the comrades asked me to fill in for Jesse. I was actually in Seattle this past weekend, and I hope that if you haven't seen it, you can make arrangements to check either through Socialist Alternative website or campaign for the 15 Now campaign. I want to encourage you to go to look at some of the, I mean, obviously you can look at the speeches from Shama Sawant, but also to see the rally that was organized on Martin Luther King Day. That was this last Monday. And usually, of course, there's the usual kind of processions that the NGOs organize along with the politicians to praise Martin Luther King about what a peaceful and good man he was, trying to take, to define Martin Luther King the same way that they try to take the revolutionary content out of everything. But in reality, that rally turned to a very militant rally, a marching rally of over 5,000 people who marched through the streets of Seattle, campaigning for 15 Now. Which was extremely empowering, and I think that it was amazing to me to see at the very top the kind of representatives of the NGOs and the politicians who said, we're not here for this, we're here only to honor Martin Luther King, and the ordinary folks who were at the rally, and anybody was asking them about, they say, well, is it the socialists are organizing for 15 Now, and is that appropriate for to honor Martin Luther King? And the vast majority of ordinary people who were at the rally, they said, of course, Martin Luther King, he fought for a living wage. He fought for the idea and it was a fantastically successful event with thousands of people participating. And I think it was amazing to see that linking not only the electoral success that we had, which we got for a historic 100,000, almost 100,000 votes, 94,000 votes for Shama Sawant in Seattle, but also to see how quickly we're beginning to transform that campaign from an electoral event, which was actually an event in itself, was an activist event. But at the height of this campaign, we actually mobilized over 400 activists on the ground at the height of the campaign, the last 3 weeks of the campaign. We were able to raise over $150,000, $140,000 in the course of the campaign. We were able, with an open socialist campaign, we were able to have a real impact in the city in terms of an unapologetic, openly anti-capitalist, openly socialist campaign that pledged to fight capitalism. And it confirmed the fundamental analysis that we put forward, in the sense that we believe that an opening has occurred on the left, which is at the moment is taking place. And that's a result of many factors that I do not have the time to go into in this opening. I'm going to only make a few opening remarks. But it is, I think, also I should mention very quickly, and I hope that people are going to, as we get into the discussion, we can discuss more in detail, because there's great lessons for all of us to be learned from these campaigns. Also, how close we came to the campaign in Minneapolis as well. In Minneapolis, actually, the Time War campaign came within 224 votes, or 229 votes of winning another seat in Ward 9 in Minneapolis, with the support of SEIU, and I hope to have an opportunity to explain how that happened, because SEIU, as you know, is supporting Democrats everywhere. Why did they support the socialist candidate? And the same in terms of a number of unions in Seattle as well, who supported the real campaign. The reason for that, give just a headline about this, it was because of the roots that these socialist campaigns have, both in the Occupy movement, but also in terms terms of building solidarity with the workers on the ground, with the 3 locals of SEIU in Minneapolis, to the degree that it was not possible for the SEIU, it was not viable for the SEIU leadership to say no to the campaign. It was actually the support among workers on, and the ability of the Socialists to mobilize real solidarity and real campaigns whenever there was a strike, whenever there was a struggle. It was the reason why they ended up supporting the Socialists and so on. And this was not in any way to say that we pulled back from any criticism. We're open about explaining the role that Democrats play as a graveyard of movements. We're open in explaining that the union should break, should not be funding, and should break from the Democratic Party, and so on. But of course, that is part of what is taking place. I think that these campaigns reveal the necessity for socialists, if they're serious about building, and that these campaigns can, that the conditions are definitely opening at the present time, for struggle. It is not an abstract thing where it's electoralism as some kind of electoral strategy will solve the problems of the socialist left. In order to conduct viable campaigns, socialist campaigns and radical campaigns, it is necessary to have roots, to have a serious idea in terms of how to approach the consciousness, for example. It's necessary to have an understanding of perspectives of the program in terms of how to approach these campaigns. I think it's coming, at this development, both of these campaigns, we're in the context of what we've also seen. We saw the elections of the 24 candidates in Lorain County in Ohio, which was an incredible development. Again, to some degree, it was a kickback. It's not a clear break of the Democratic Party. You can see that we actually went out of our way to speak to some of the people who were involved in this, because they didn't. It's not as if they intended to start building an independent building, but they were kicked in the teeth one time too many from the Democratic Party. They decided to run independent candidates, which was extremely good and positive, and it indicates the fracturing that's beginning to develop within the Democratic Party as the crisis deepens and continues. The crisis of unemployment, the crisis of the inability of the Democrats to resolve any of the fundamental problems that are facing working people at the present time. It is also taking place. I think I should mention, of course, the heroic campaign that Howie Hawkins fought in Syracuse, which was an amazing struggle, and that revealed also those from the Working Families Party and the role of the working families, the pernicious role, if you like, that the Working Families Party has played since the time of the Labour Party, when we first broke, the Socialist Alternative and our predecessor, Labour Militant. It's not the first time we're pioneering a lot of these developments. Actually, we played a critical role. My comrade Gloria Pater and Sean Sweeney and Margaret Collins, a number of people who were 10, 15 years ago, were involved in the first major initiative at that time when the Labour Party was beginning to be involved. We organized the first meetings with Tony Mazzarchi and so on. It was at that time the Working Families Party, by the CWA, or a section of CWA, launched that as an attempt to actually try to prevent the emergence of independent working class politics and a Labour Party at that stage. And we saw the pernicious role that they play in terms of trying to defeat an authentic independent campaign that Howie Hawkins has organized and fought for in Syracuse and so on. And I think that's something perhaps we need to discuss a bit more, because these issues of the inside, outside, and pressure politics will remain with us. You can see that debate is taking place in Chicago at the moment within the teachers' union, and it is a bit unfortunate that there should have been clearer markers being put down in terms of the need for politically to confront earlier on by the socialist opposition inside CORE, in my opinion, and so on. And it would have been better to prepare rather than to wait until other developments took place in order to launch a campaign for independent politics and so on. And it would be perhaps necessary as well, and perhaps we should discuss this openly, of the necessity of more openly confronting the inside strategies that are promoted by a section of the labor officials in CORE more directly, and so on, in a friendly way. We don't need to call people names or anything like that, but we need to be firm in terms of the principles of standing independent. And I can assure you that those ideas, the need for independent politics and for open and apologetic campaigns will be entirely vindicated. The members, and this is what the Salon campaign and the Time More campaign showed, that, you know, we had actually in our inauguration rally where 400 people at the temple, the Central Labour Council. You had a series of union officials, actually the head of the Central Labour Council of Seattle, apologizing for not endorsing the campaign. And so, when was the last time you heard about that? Union officials apologized to socialists, said, sorry, we didn't endorse your campaign. It was a mistake. You know, and everything else. We said, yes, that's true. It was a mistake. But it is not, I mean, from our point of view, we need to understand, we have to have, of course, a clear understanding of the necessity for Labour to play a crucial role. You can see that with the campaign for 15 now. And that is where we're turning our attention. It's not in terms of discussing more and more about electoralism, but in order to build a movement that can build the self-confidence, if you like, of the working class. Because there is among the left, partly because of our prolonged isolation, and so partly because of the defeats of the socialist movement over the past period, the setbacks in the consciousness that have taken place, there is a bit of that idea, but the working class needs to conduct effective and successful struggles in this sense. And we're using the 15 now as the cornerstone, if you like, of this campaign of trying to bring together Labour activists, but also we're going to launch independent committees of workers in Seattle, as well as building with SEIU and other forces to try to because we need their money. The truth is that if it comes to a referendum in Seattle with this issue, the bosses and so on, they're going to throw millions of dollars in the campaign in SeaTac, in a small city at the airport nearby. They spent millions of dollars to defeat. Of course, it prevailed, it was victorious. But it was only because the unions that have a lot of money also were able to put the money. So you have to take that into account. We need a movement from below to be able to build that is not beholden, if you like, to at what point and so on, but also the need to build a serious campaign that has the ability to conduct and so on. I think that I will finish on this. This discussion is not an abstract academic discussion about the need for independent, I mean, I think it's great, it would be very good. But for us here in New York, I will try, and I hope this will come out in the course of the discussion as well. The highest priority, in my opinion, at the moment, is that we have a successful campaign this year for Howie Hawkins, from what I understand, is going to be running for governor. Howie Hawkins is an incredible campaign. He made the most. He comes across as a working class left-wing activist. He has his politics. Even though I don't agree with all his politics, and I don't agree with all the socialist politics, my politics and our politics, but in terms of his commitment to the struggle for independent working class politics and the need for left-wing ideas, I think he is totally committed. And I think that the left, including the socialist left, the Labour left, and so on, should be behind a campaign that can make it easier to provide ballot access down the road for further campaigns that we begin to organize in the next period. So I think that this can help contextualize this discussion, both in terms of the politics in the city, in terms of making the tasks ahead of us, but also, and we'll finish with that. As I said, both of these campaigns, whether it was the anti-foreclosure struggle in Minneapolis, or whether it was the struggle of the Occupy movement and so on with the Salon campaign, we need to begin to struggle here in this city to begin to keep de Blasio's feet to the fire in terms of the commitment. He's talking about living wage, he's talking about taxing the rich and everything else. It is imperative that we begin to build the kind of movement from below that campaigns effectively to demand that there is a living wage, to demand that there is a $15 an hour for working people in the city. There's already a movement that's beginning to that has already begun in terms of the low pay. But I think that the socialist left can play a critical role and the campaigns of Savant and Time More can become an inspiration in terms of rebuilding building the ideas of struggle and solidarity, and also the ideas of socialism. Thank you.